Hi, and welcome to Indies Film Foundation. I'm Gary Parker, president and co-founder. I'd like to introduce Bruce May.
Hi, I'm Bruce May. I'm co-founder of the Indie Films Foundation. We're here to introduce you to the organization. It's an American-based nonprofit designed to support the film industry, the indie film industry. Today we're going to be talking about our vision and our mission. We'll describe the film school and how you can get involved as a student. We'll describe our first movie, Shattered Lives, which we'll be producing this year. We'll also describe the support services we offer to the industry, the indie film industry in general, to help stimulate independent filmmaking. We'll describe our ambassador program if you'd like to get involved with us and help us support our goals. We'll tell you how you can make a donation, and we'll also talk about our open house, which we're holding this Saturday. Our vision at the Indie Film Foundation is to seek the support the aspirations of indie filmmakers, helping to educate them in the art and science of filmmaking and support them throughout their careers. The IFF seeks to influence the art of filmmaking both in the classroom and on the set. The goal is to teach students how to make films with production values that meet or exceed industry standards and to further inspire their careers in the film industry. We believe in producing films that reach out and touch people, films that inform, educate, and provide insight into the human condition. Gary, why don't we talk a little bit about our background? I'm going to let you go first. Your 40-plus years career, you can describe how that led to where you are today and how we started the foundation.
Well, that was the fastest 40 years I've lived yet. But anyway, yeah, it all began as a still photographer. I then worked in television. I've worked on probably 20 films throughout my life, done a dozen documentaries, and it really is my passion. It's my love. And what I would like to do is to be able to share that with some young folks. We did kind of a mini camp years ago when my daughter was in high school and had such fun with that. And I really want to do it again. This time we've added the element of actually making a full-length feature film as our class project and as our first project with Indie Films. So, Bruce, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my career started when I met Gary over 25 years ago, and he began teaching me the world of film and television production. We worked together over this time, producing television commercials, marketing videos. Gary has produced a number of documentary films in his career and has won many Telly Awards for that. I'm so excited to be able to team up with Gary and work on this together. He likes my writing, which is great for me, and I actually completed the script for the film, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and which we're going to go into production. I'm very excited about that. I've been involved in film, television, digital media my whole career, working in online media all across the country. So there's a very deep background here on the technology side as well. I'm very proud to be teaching with Gary at the school and looking forward to our first class. We're going to describe our mission more specifically. There's three aspects to the foundation. We have the film school, which we've already talked about, and the movies, which we're going to be producing a film every year. And we'll also provide some support services for other indie filmmakers because we want to try to help support the industry in general and encourage and nurture other filmmakers going forward into the future. The film school is very exciting. We're going to touch on every aspect of filmmaking. Gary can talk more about this, but we're going to cover everything from writing, producing, filming, editing, and even marketing films. If you're an indie filmmaker, that last piece is really important, so you might even want to get in touch with us about that, how we can help you. We'll help develop our students' creative storytelling talent, which I think is really at the heart of this. You can learn all the technology in the world, but you've got to know how to tell a story. It's what it's all about. How do you tell a story? And Gary, I remember you were talking to me about it when you wanted me to get involved. And we had some passionate conversations about storytelling. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, you know, one thing, I'm a huge, as well as Bruce and probably everybody that's watching right now, a huge fan of filmmaking, and it has to begin with a good story. It's got to begin with a writer that knows how to take his storytelling talent and add that to a visual and audio medium. And so Bruce had actually written a screenplay based on a short story based on a dream, which is funny enough, years ago. And I always kind of thought that'd be our first movie we made together. But as this thing developed and we wanted to get back more into teaching and sharing and working with young people, we felt like the first film we're working on is something that I've been involved in for 21 years and very passionate about, because it saves lives and it changes lives. And so that's why the film is called Shattered Lives. It's based on the Shattered Lives program that some great people do in the high schools. And I may be jumping ahead a little bit, Bruce.
We'll come back and talk more about that. Yeah.
But so Bruce, I gave him a little, sort of my little story idea, and he took it and made an unbelievably great screenplay out of it. I still have not been able to get through the screenplay without getting emotional about it. And so we have a great story, and that's very important. So what we want to teach you guys is to start with a great story. That's the first thing. You can be a great visual person, you can be a great audio person, but you've got to have a story to make a good film, whether it's 5 minutes or whether it's 90 minutes. And so that's what Bruce is alluding to. And so we start with the storytelling aspect, how to write your story and what to do with that from there. And then we teach you how to visually relate that to the screen.
Right. We really help our students develop their own creative storytelling talent. And we do that. We also have weekly labs, which is exciting. So we'll be meeting 3 days a week. And on Saturday, we're going to bring them in the studio. They'll be actually working with real equipment, audio, video equipment, cameras, everything, lights.
Yeah, kind of like what we're doing here. One of the reasons why we're having so much fun with this is I'm actually doing the switching for what you're seeing right now in the studio here. And so you'll be able to push these buttons and touch these things and do this yourselves. You know, one of y'all will be sitting over there and one of y'all will be standing here, and y'all will be having this fun as well. So we want the Saturdays will be like the lab, the hands-on, get to touch the equipment, get to get acquainted with it, and then our during the week will be, I like to call it more of a lecture discussion. I don't like to just totally be the person who does all the talking. I like to share my experience, what I know, what I've learned, and then share that with the class, because I know young people are extremely smart these days, and I know that y'all are going to bring a lot of good things that share with the class that'll make it a better experience for all of us. And I expect, and I know Bruce does too, to learn stuff from you guys as well.
Yeah, you know, I think it's important to understand that it's film and television, right? So Gary's won a bunch of Telly Awards for documentary films he's done over the years, but we also have television shows that he produces. And we're actually right now, we're shooting in a 2-camera studio setup. We can actually add a third and do a 3-camera television shoot, which we do from time to time on some of the shows. And then we also are going to be talking about film production, where you're actually going out and filming a real movie on set, on location. So you get it all here, which is exciting too.
Can I add one thing? It's probably out of order. You know, Bruce is the producer in the family. Okay, he has this very laid out in a very where it's going to work out perfectly in a format that's going to fit into the hour and stuff. And I'm kind of the director, the creative on this side, and so I'm going with the moment. But one thing we also do, and I don't know if I shared this, we also are the general managers of KVQT Channel 21 in Houston. I'm involved in the programming, I'm involved in the operations, and in the sales aspect of that. So not only will you get to touch equipment and do all these things, but your program could very well, and I expect them to be good enough, end up in front of 2 million people in Houston on television down there. So that's another aspect we bring that I don't think you can get that in any other film television school in our area.
No, exactly. So yeah, we're encourage everybody to do our student film. It can be a short film, but we'll help you with any of the challenges you have in doing that. Really, the best way to learn this business is by getting involved and actually doing it, and that's what we're going to offer you, is the opportunity to work with us, and we'll work with you as you begin working on your student project to produce a really interesting story. I think it's one of the exciting things for me is that we set goals for ourselves when we decided to do the foundation. And one of the things that we really wanted to focus on was inspiring students to create creative films and to inspire creative storytelling throughout the industry. And part of that comes down to challenging students to think and see the world in new ways, to challenge their own assumptions about everything. So I'm really looking forward to that and seeing how that plays out. We've already talked about the hands-on training we're going to be doing, but we're also going to support students after they get involved in the industry and everybody in the industry. And I think something I wanted to talk about for a few minutes here is I'm going to jump ahead myself to the stories that inspire us. And we put together a real quick short list of some of our favorite movies, and I know you're familiar with these: Casablanca, Citizen Kane, It's a Wonderful Life, Rebel Without a Cause, 12 Angry Men, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Shawshank Redemption, Schindler's List. I mean, we could have come up with a list of 100 movies, but we chose these just to illustrate what we're talking about with creative storytelling. And if you notice, most of these films, 8 out of 10 of these films were made before 1962, and they go all the way back into the 1940s. Great storytelling is something that I think we're at risk at losing in the industry. And Gary and I have talked a lot about this. You've got a film industry dominated now with CGI graphics. The storylines, the plot lines are simple-minded. The good guy kills the bad guy and the movie's over. And for anybody that really loves films, if you look at this list, you get excited about it. And that's what we aspire to do, is to create films and teach others to create films and that really aspire to this level of storytelling. And that's, to me, probably the most exciting thing of all. And I know you agree with that, Gary.
Yeah, I do. And just to tell you real quickly, there are some films being made that we like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I can guarantee the ones that we've seen and the ones we'll discuss in class had no computer generation in them. They were just good storytelling, good acting, good shooting, good editing. And so that's what we want to share with you guys. If you get into the industry and you make all CGI films, you make $1 million a year, more power to you. But we want to teach you the basics that has been the stronghold of filmmaking since the beginning.
Yeah, and I don't have a hard objection to CGI. If it's a great story, that's great. I just saw Alita, and it totally blew me away. It was all CGI for the most part. They had live actors, but it was really quite amazing. And I didn't know anything about the film, and at the end, I'm watching the credits with my son, and James Cameron popped up as a director. I went, oh, I actually said out loud in the theater, oh, no wonder. It was so good, right? So it's not CGI that's the problem. It's the lack of powerful creative storytelling, and that's what we really aspire here to teach.
Absolutely.
So I shouldn't neglect the details here. Our first session is going to start this month, March the 19th. It'll go through May the 12th. So if you're a student in school around here, we designed this to fit in so it won't be disruptive to you or your finals, but it includes 24 sessions altogether, taught right here at our studio at 810 Holly in Conroe, Texas. There'll be 2 sessions on weekdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 6, and then our lab on Saturday at 10 to 1. And then you'll be working on your own short film on your own during that time.
Can I interject one quick thing there that I think is important? Just like you're watching this streaming right now, we're going to stream our classes so that if you have a conflict at school, a sporting event you got to do, or maybe you're sick or whatever, but you missed one of those classes, we're going to stream those classes for you, and we're going to archive them, so you will be able to watch them at a later time if you need to. If you want to go back and review Bruce's screenwriting 2 hours, you'll be able to go back and do that. So we've tried to use technology to help you be able to not feel like if I miss a class, I'm going to be way behind, because it is pretty fast and furious, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure you don't miss anything. Now, Saturdays, you need to be there, because that's when you get to touch buttons and do this. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah,
Bruce.
I'm glad you did. You know, the equipment here is totally state of the art. We have a complete television studio right here. We have all the equipment we need to do any kind of film production, short of millions of dollars of CGI, but you don't need millions of dollars of CGI to do great filmmaking, and that's sort of the point. But if you're concerned about the technology, the level of technology, everything here is state of the art, and we'll be touching every aspect in it, from live television, streaming live, and everything else that goes along with actually producing film and television. So I thought we'd go ahead now and talk a little bit more about the movie. I wanted to get you to talk a little bit, Gary, about your work over the last 20 years, because when you told me that you wanted to start with Shattered Lives, it made sense to me, and the more I thought about it, the more sense it made, because you've got 20 years of experience here building relationships in the community here in Montgomery County, Texas, where we live, which includes Conroe and the Woodlands. And you've done this working with virtually every school in the county, and it's only gotten bigger every year. And the shocking statistic that you showed me when we were sitting around talking about this, and I was focused on, yeah, but you know, how many people can we reach? How many people can we reach? And you were on your phone. I thought you weren't listening, but you were calculating, and you just held up your phone and had a number. It was 143,000 people that you estimated that you have reached or touched by working on Shattered Lives here in Montgomery County for 20 years. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. Yeah, that number comes from how many viewers we have for the videos we produce for each high school. It's 21 years this year. We have our first Shattered Lives program in Montgomery County next Wednesday, as a matter of fact. But 21 years ago, Mike Valdez, who's a local attorney and a former prosecutor for the DA and a municipal judge, had this idea to try to make an impact on young people to discourage them from drinking and driving at that time. Now it's gotten even worse with phones. It's become drinking and driving and distracted driving. And so what he came up with was a program where they literally went into the school and took children out of the school, kids, young people, adults in high school, and involved them. They set up a crash scene, and the kids were in the crash scene. They mulaged them up so that they were bloody and broken arms and broken bones and all these things. And they set up this scene, and then EMS and police and fire would all ascend on this scene just like in the real world. And they did this in front of the school, and the impact was incredible. And so I had the honor, and I was blessed to be hired to do a video and capture that whole thing from beginning to end, and then to put together a video at the end so that people could sort of see that day, that event in an 8-minute video. And so from the very first one, and we average 5 or 6, sometimes 8 a year for the last 20 years, we do Montgomery County, we do the ones in Tomball, we do Tarkington and other counties around our county. And I'm proud to say that each video we've done, let's just say an average of 5 every year for 20 years. Out of that 100+ videos, none of them have ever been exactly the same. None of them have had the same music, the same look, the same feel. We customize them to the school and their student body. But it had such an impact, and it was so positive for so many students, so many administrators, teachers, parents. It had such a positive impact on the community that I shared that with Bruce, and I said, man, I think this is the first film we should do with IFF, because I know it touches lives. I know it's saved lives. We started out saying, you know, if what we're doing, and everybody and all those volunteers and all those professionals that came together on this, if we could save one life, make one kid think not to have that drink and drive, it would be worth it. And so Bruce has totally captured that story. I mean, like I say, I get emotional just thinking about the story he's written. It is so powerful. And it's just, I think it's our first film that is going to be, it's just going to be something that you're never going to forget once you watch it. I mean, sorry, I may be a little,
No, that's
a
fine.
little, you
I'll
know,
talk a little bit about it. I know you.
Yeah.
It's a topic that's important for all the reasons you just said, and I have some statistics here if you want to share this. There's 1.6 million crashes caused each year by distracted driving. Forget drunk driving, just distracted driving, where you're looking at your phone. And teenagers are extremely challenged by this. And there's 2.4 million teenagers that drive under the influence of alcohol every week. These are not, we're not talking about the same thing. These are two different causes, and they lead to literally hundreds of thousands of wrecks and thousands of deaths. So one of the things that Gary mentioned to me when he came up, was asking me to do the script, was he described how he'd reached so many people here regionally, but he wanted to reach more. And he felt like a film was the right way to do it. If you're interested in getting involved with us as an ambassador program, which we'll talk about more in a minute, I want you to understand that that's a real important part of our mission, is to duplicate the impact that Gary has had working with Shattered Lives here in Montgomery and regionally in other counties, and take it across Texas and even nationwide by producing this film and distributing it not only through traditional channels, but also through a grassroots movement to get into schools and churches all over the country, because we know the impact it can have to save lives. And I'll say this about the script. We're going to actually embargo the script because we don't want anybody to know the ending until it's in the can. We've shot the whole movie. And I have to say, I found it incredibly challenging to write this script. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I knew that we were going to take a main character who was responsible for killing his friends, and we had to find a way to redeem him. We had to walk him through this journey where he finds forgiveness. And that was a heck of a challenge. I knew it was going to have to involve a prison experience, and I'd never written anything like that before. So I researched it, and I researched it through a prison ministry program. I actually spoke to some people that went through the program and are out now, and their stories were very inspiring to me. So at the end of the day, the script goes so far beyond what Gary's done with Shattered Lives in the films with the schools, because that goes up to the wreck. The film takes you to that point and then goes all the way through the next couple of years, and the journey that our main character, James Stewart, goes on to find forgiveness. And it played out, as I said, the story actually took on a life of its own. I didn't even feel like I was writing it toward the end. It had to go where it needed to go, and I'm very excited and proud about the result. So I can't wait to see it on screen. So that's where we're at with the film, and I want to talk a little bit about how we're going to support the film industry. So Gary, if you want to talk about, let me just briefly describe. There's three areas where we're going to focus on: the distribution opportunities, and I'll come back to you on that. Continuing education, just generally. So as the film school evolves, it's not going to be just for high school students or even college students. If you're in the industry and you want to learn more about filmmaking, you can come hang out with us, go through a semester, and learn about different aspects that you might not know about. We're also, of course, as we said, focus on promoting creative storytelling throughout the industry. But why don't you talk about the distribution opportunities that we can offer other indie filmmakers through Channel 21?
Okay. I worked at Channel 13, and I had a news bureau in Washington, D.C. I've been through local television. I've been through national television. I've worked for pretty much anybody that would hire me. And I'm back at local TV. KVQT 21 is a local antenna channel in Houston. And we just rebranded, Crystal Christmas and I, who's my partner in DGM, the production company here. We just rebranded as Preview TV. And our motto, our slogan is, you see it here first. And so we want to help young filmmakers, even old filmmakers, you know. We want to help people show what their talent is in their programs and products first, and hope that it gets picked up by a major network, hope that it goes worldwide, and we can always say you saw it here first in Houston, Texas. But that's not to discount Houston, Texas, because it is the fastest growing television market in the United States. It was 10. I think it may have gotten even higher now. I haven't checked that lately. And antenna TV, we have an antenna here on our building, in our studio here in Conroe, and we get the channel here. So it goes all the way from Galveston to Conroe to Katy to, we have a sister station in Beaumont that broadcasts what we're doing here too. So that's kind of the beginning place. We have partnerships. Our national feed is from Biz TV, which is an entrepreneurial business network that's in 66 million homes across the nation, and they're in like 30. Different markets, and so there's an opportunity, depending on what kind of program we're doing, to go to their network. We're also hooked up with MyTV as well, and so there's an opportunity there to get in front of even more homes. So we're kind of a starting place, a preview, if you don't mind the pun. So any films that we do, any films that our students do, any films that anybody wants to get in a relationship with us, have got a great place to start with an audience in Houston. Houston is a great film community. It's a great diverse community with a lot of different walks of life that you know, there's tons of stories that we could share, and tons of people that love filmmaking, and from documentaries to sports films to, you know, CGI films. So that's our distribution.
Right.
Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the thing about this is that for an independent filmmaker, the biggest challenge is, you know, how do you market your film? And generally you have zero budget for that. In the film industry, budgets for marketing are as much as 30% or even more of the film production cost. So you have to ask yourself, okay, I got a great little film here, but who's going to see it? And you know, if you're just limited to some of the contests and the film festivals, not that many people see it. So it is a great way to get access to enough people that you can actually start to seed an audience. And if you got a great story, well, then it can grow from there. So I think that'll be very helpful. Gary, I forgot we were streaming live, so we have some questions coming in.
Good.
Let me ask you, let me get this back up and I'm going to ask you these questions. So someone asked here, do you offer certification for the school?
Am I handling that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you know, he mentioned the live thing. I looked down, there's like 22 people watching. Now I'm nervous. We do want to certify our class, okay? You will get, you know, a certificate of completion. And as I think as we grow, that will mean more and more. But it will get your foot in the door of a production house or a company that says, what kind of experience do you have? Well, I worked at a TV station. I took a course there, and I was an intern on a feature film, and you know, Shattered Lives. And they go, wow, Shattered Lives, you're on that? So yes, there will be accreditation, and Bruce will mark all that, cross the T's, dot it, and all that.
Right.
But
yeah, absolutely. You know, I was partners for a time with the Texas Music Cafe, which is a music program at one point on 83 PBS stations around the country. Chris Amorian is a producer. For a time, he was actually teaching at Texas State Technical College in Waco. And he told me back then, it really impressed me at the time, was that a lot of the people that were hiring their students would come back and say that they preferred, even though it was, you know, not a four-star high tier 1 level institution, they really preferred students coming from his class, because he did what we do. He actually put them on a show where they actually produced shows that were seen on PBS. And that's what I always liked about this idea, was that this is by far the best way to learn filmmaking or television production is actually by doing. And Chris has already proven that. So I have another question here for you, Gary. So just giving you a heads up. That's part of live TV.
Yeah.
So can student students work as interns on our films. I guess we should explain how that works. So we have opportunities that the film is going to be produced this summer. The school is roughly 10 weeks this spring, but there will be opportunities to work on the film, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like on any major film, you have the production department, you have the the camera department, the people who work with the director, the editors and so forth. So there'll be an opening and a place for every student who wants to work on the film. There also, since we're doing a film that half the cast at least is young people, teenagers, there will be opportunities for anybody that wants an audition for parts too. I happen to know of a couple of potential students who have great acting abilities and already have done a few short films of their own. So yeah, whether you want to be in front of the camera helping or behind the camera helping, there will be a place for you to intern on the Shattered Lives film.
And we're actually we're casting now. So we're only 3 months out from production. So we're casting now. The script has, I haven't counted the people, but it's got to be at least 50 or 60 people,
least, I
and
think
most
50.
of them are young. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to need a lot of actors for the film. I need to talk about the ambassador program before we wrap up, and then we're almost toward the end of this. I hope you've stayed with us here and have gotten to this part of the program. We couldn't talk about it up front because we had to explain the passion with a vision for it all. So if you're still watching, the ambassador program is really critical to our success. We are a nonprofit foundation, and we are going to live off of donations. We'll have other revenues, but donations are really critical for us. We are going to have a GoFundMe site or a CrowdRise site up soon for donations. But and this show is going to be part of the content that we're going to be creating on a regular basis to drive that. The caveat to doing crowdfunding well is really to expand your reach through social media. And the way you do that is not just by having content on your own social media site. It's by making sure people share that content with their networks. And that's where the ambassador program comes in. All we're really asking you to do is when you see our content on our social networks, in Facebook or LinkedIn or anywhere, that you share that content inside your network. And we can't have enough ambassadors. I want to emphasize that. It's very easy to participate. All you have to do is sign up and then look for our content and share it when you see it. And we're going to have a lot of extra freebies if you get involved with us, including the ability to come down and watch us film, passes to be on the live set. You're certainly going to get a copy of the movie, your own personal copy of the movie, and we'll be doing some other things. If you also want to get involved with us, to get involved in actually asking for donations, that's another option you have. We don't have to, but if it's something that you think you can help us out with, we'd love to help you, support you do that. And just get involved. If you love filmmaking, this is a great opportunity for you too, without being a student, just to be around it, be more involved with it, see it happen, and really help us be more successful. Primarily by, as I said, simply by sharing our content and these shows when we put them up on our social networks. So please contact us if you'd like to know more about how you can get involved with us in that program. And then the donation site is not yet up, but you can always write us a check, and you can just send that here to 810 Holly in Conroe, Texas, 77301. The site should be up pretty soon, so we'll have that available. And we'll connect the dots for you on social media. The last piece of business we have to do is talk about the open house, which we're holding this Saturday right here at the studio, Saturday, February the 23rd from 1 to 3 p.m. If you can come by, please come by, whether you want to interested in being involved in the school as a student, want to join our ambassador program, or if you're just in the community and are curious to learn more about what we're doing, please come by. The studio is, if you know Conroe, Holly it's right across from where Dalton's is, so it's on, just turn on off of Fraser, right past the Harley dealership, and we're right down here on the side street. That's 810 Holly, Conroe, Texas, That's this Saturday, the 23rd, from 1 to 3 p.m. I hope you come, and we'll talk to you in more detail about everything we've been talking about here today. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Well, considering we still have a few more minutes.
Okay.
If you did not get, we sent out some emails and texts to people earlier, because if you had questions, I know we've talked to some people who want to help us, and we sent out this number 936-242-9264 as a number you could text your questions into, 936-242-9264. So if you have any other questions, I know we've had a couple of people ask, feel free to do that. We actually blocked out kind of an hour here, and we're at about 4:37. So we still
we got plenty of time to talk. Okay,
yeah, we got a
good.
few more minutes we can talk about this, and I'll probably see the numbers drop now. We're up to like 27 people watching.
Well, we wanted to make sure we got that in. We can
Yeah.
go back over that again. So
Yeah.
let's talk more about the film and filmmaking and the scripts. The scripts are exciting. So we actually have our first two films. The scripts are done. We can talk a little bit about the second one, which is, I love that script. I wrote this script for Gary 20 years ago. As he said, it was inspired off a dream. And I've been working on it continuously. I go back every couple of years and just polish it off and add some bits and pieces. And you know, it's a good example of what great storytelling can do when you really put your heart and soul into it. And I think I learned script writing by working on that script for 20 years, and in going back to Gary over and over again every year or two and saying, well, here's what I got, what do you think? And he'd give me his ideas and his thoughts about it. And I realized that he was really kind of polishing me off as a script writer over those 20 years. And it was fun to do. And I knew that it was getting where it needed to be when finally I started to blow him away with some of the things that I had added to the script, which just stimulated his thinking even more. So we really worked together as a team. I take too much credit for writing the scripts because a lot of the ideas, they come from those conversations that we have, and that's the fun part about script writing. It's a very collaborative process, and Gary and I have gotten really good at it because we've been working on this now for 20 years. So Dreaming of Tokyo will be the second film that we do, which we'll produce next year in 2020, the summer of 2020. And I'm as excited about that as I am about Shattered Lives. But Shattered Lives, I got to be careful here because I really don't want to give away too much. The story has a lot of surprises in it, and that was exciting to see how that played out. So we really are going to embargo it, but we've got a lot of scenes where we're shooting in prison scenes. And Gary, where are we going to be doing this?
Well, I cannot give that away.
You can't give that away. Okay, so everything's secret about the movie. So we have a secret script going to be shot in a secret prison location.
I've worked with some other filmmakers who've had a prison set that they had keys to, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we may have to tap into that.
Okay. Yeah.
See if that's still available. But basically everything will be shot here locally.
Yeah. Right.
Of course, in our area, and working with all the good folks here. We've got the support of the Shattered Lives Montgomery people,
which is really
Mike
exciting.
Valdez, who's still on the board, and Brenda, who is now the director and the leading the team and stuff. So we've got a lot of support, a lot of people who are excited about what we're doing and to help us with locations and stuff. But going back to the ambassador thing for a second, that's one of the ways you can be involved in that too, because we do want your input. We film as a community, and it takes a community or a village to make something really good. And so as we get into this in our ambassadors, we're going to kind of lean on them too to help us with locations and help us with just with the aesthetics. If they have suggestions and ideas, to enhance it, we want that input. We want this. I guess what we really want is we want the students and we want our ambassadors and our friends and family to feel like this is their project as well. You know, it's not just Bruce and I, and not just our students, but it's everybody, our ambassadors, everybody who ever comes to see the film, you know, everybody, I hope, will say, you know, I had a little piece in that, or I went to the set that day, or I helped them raise a couple of dollars that contributed to this, and I'm sure glad I did, because it's a great story and it's a great film.
And a great cause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that, and we really need you guys. I don't want to sound like Jerry Lewis on a telethon, but we do. We value our friends, and we value your input, because we're doing this school so that some of these students, that maybe some of them will go, well, I've decided now I really do want to be a doctor instead of a filmmaker. But we want to, film has been such an important way to share life with people for a very long time, over 100 years. Film's been involved in people's lives, and it's been one of the most effective storytelling tools ever invented. And it's funny that some of the things we're going to talk about in class, as far as camera position and blocking of shots and these type of things, basically was created way back in the beginning, before there was even sound on film. The way that they shoot, where one person looks at the other person and over the shoulder and this and that. This stuff has not changed a lot. There's been great variations on it, but the initial storytelling was so incredible by the people who started. You know, Charlie Chaplin is one who comes to mind, who was such a genius at using the camera and telling a story with it. And so we want to kind of bring out that type of influence in you, and give you the basics, like Charlie Chaplin gave so many filmmakers after him the basics, and then let you guys go play off of that and grow on.
No, that's a really great point. You know, the basics of filmmaking haven't changed. And you got to get grounded in that, because you can do it wrong and it looks really, really bad. When you do it right, the audience doesn't see that you're doing anything. They get lost in the story. And doing it right just is a matter of learning what are those basic approaches to telling a story and shooting and capturing on film. It's pretty amazing when you think about it, how quickly they figured it out. First in silent film and in the talkies. I mean, within the first year, of course, they had the experience to build on. Adding sound changed a few things, but they were just making incredible movies back then, as we already alluded to. And those are the movies that have always inspired me for my whole lifetime. I've been a movie-holic forever. I remember back in the 90s, I actually bought the movie book, right, that had all the, I think it was only like 5,000 at the time. I literally went page by page, and I marked every a 5-star movie, which was the top rating at the time, and then proceeded over the next 4 or 5 years to go about renting or buying them so I could watch them. And if you want to become a great filmmaker or just appreciate the filmmaking, I would encourage you to do that as an exercise, because when you do that, the common denominators become obvious. You know, a great movie is great storytelling, and you sort of absorb it almost by osmosis without realizing it. So when I first started working with you, Gary, you know, you didn't have to explain to me why we were doing it, because it's been in my head for years, right? But then actually getting confirmation, oh yeah, this is what it looks like behind the camera to get the effect you see on film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what we're teaching, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
right. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the school and what we're going to be touching on?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
The school's kind of broken up. I know Bruce had a slide a minute ago that had it kind of broken up into.
Yeah, I'll go back to that.
Yeah, go back to that, and we'll kind of expand on that, because we actually still have some viewers. So
yeah, no.
Until everybody just signs off, says I've had enough of you guys, we'll keep talking. But the class will be, how many classes do we have total?
It's going to be 24 sessions
24.
altogether. Yeah.
Okay. So during the week, we're going to do I'll leave that up for a minute on curriculum. During the week, we're going to be doing these classes, and we'll start at the beginning, okay? Each film starts with a producer who has a dream and an idea and says, man, I want to make a film. And then he hires a screenwriter and says, okay, I got this idea, I've got some money, I want to make a movie, but I need a story. And so we'll start with actual production from a producer standpoint, a production standpoint, the business aspect of it. And that's kind of, the producer's sort of the business guy, think of it that way. He's the one that comes up with the money, he's the one that pays everybody, he hires the director, he brings it all together. So we'll go right into that, into Bruce's storytelling, creating a screen story, screenwriting. And that would be like the next class that we would do. And like I said, these classes are not just lecture, they're discussion. So
Yeah, I'm actually, if I can touch on that.
yeah,
I'm looking forward to the script writing class. So what I'm going to do is actually take scenes from my script and explain to you how I wrote it, right? So every scene has to have a purpose and meaning. It needs to fit into the story. There should not be a single scene in a film that does not need to be there, right?
Yeah,
Every scene needs to be there. So when you're writing, you want to understand, okay, let me just narrow the focus here down to this one scene I'm working on. What is the purpose of it? What is it I'm trying to achieve here? And if you've done a good job of creating your characters to begin with, and it's when you first starting it, that's to me the toughest part. When you're first creating a character, because you're like modeling out of clay and you just got a big moldy lump here. You're trying to you got to force some lines out of them, and then they start to become alive.
Yeah.
And very quickly, you don't have to think about what they're going to say because it's just in your head. Once you know that character, you know what they would say and how they would say it. It just kind of pops out, but it doesn't tell you where you're going. So that's critical, is that you've got in mind exactly what it is you're trying to achieve, and then you let that unfold very naturally. And if you do it that way, it's very authentic. And authentic storytelling requires authentic conversations, and that's a really important part to understand. So I'm going to show you how I do it. I'll describe that process, and then I'm going to I'll give you 2 or 3 different scripts, scenes you can pick to choose from, and I'm going to tell you, what is the goal for the next scene, and then I'm going to let you on your own write that, and that'll be just an exercise you can take home and do, and we'll compare notes when you come back and see how well you did. But that's the secret to great screenwriting, is just the basics. Really, is just to, get the character development right, and be clear about what has to happen next. Even though you don't really know where the story's going to go 3 or 4 scenes down, a good script will take, the whole movie will take a life of its own. Now, some filmmakers will actually, before they write, they will storyboard the whole thing. They will block it all out. And the reason they do that is to make sure that everything needs to be there. There's nothing extraneous, and they make sure they're not missing anything, right? So great storytelling is about, okay, you've got a character, you've got a challenge, they got to overcome that challenge, they have to have a conflict resolution, but how does that really play out given a particular scenario? And that's really where movies begin. What is this scenario? And literally you can analyze any movie in those terms, and it's a good exercise to do too, because then you start to see the very best movies, literally every word is there for a reason. And when you start to appreciate filmmaking that way, that's when you can get excited about it, because now you understand, okay, that's the goal, and if I aspire to achieve that goal, now I understand the formula for getting there, and then it's just a matter of getting practice. Yeah. But that's how I'm going to teach the script writing.
Absolutely. So that gives you some real insight into what those classes are going to be like. And how in-depth it's going to be, and then how hands-on you're going to get to be. And it continues from that. We go into directing, and we've got a great actor who's going to come talk to you about acting. And then we'll talk about how to direct those actors, how to direct that camera, and how to tell the story with that. because the director is the creative boss of the set, and everybody kind of works for him. And then we'll get into like the director of photography, who's sort of the crew boss, and he's the one who creates the visual look of the film. You know, how it looks and how it feels. Is it night? Is it day? You know, based on the scriptwriter's story. That director and that director of photography create that visual element to fit the story. And so we'll go through that. We'll go through sound, because the worst thing you can have is a great looking movie with bad sound. And sound is, to me, is the hardest thing to get right. It sounds kind of funny, but it really is something that you've got to pay a lot of attention to, and you've got to make it good. It's got to be right. And I complain, and probably some of this has to do with my age, but I have trouble hearing dialogue in movies now more that's gone digital than when it was analog.
You know, that's a pet peeve of mine is, you know, they make movies, they still today, they make them to be seen in a theater. Mm-hmm. You have Dolby surround sound, mm-hmm. and the sound's perfect, and you can hear a pin drop in the middle, literally in the middle of a machine gun blazing scene. You can also hear a pin drop. And I've seen that illustrated with a film, I can't remember it, but it was literally a machine gun is dropped down these stairs, and it's rotating and firing. And not only do you hear all the loud, explosive sounds of the gunfire, you also can hear, in a proper sound system environment, you can hear the casing as they're being ejected.
Yeah.
They're bouncing off the steps. You hear all of that, right? And that's, it's really important to understand, okay, let's understand we can make a movie for a film, for a theater environment, but people watch them at home too. And I think a lot of films, they're missing the boat on that.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree.
Right.
Yeah. Where are we on time, Bruce?
We got a few minutes left.
Minutes.
Yeah, but I wanted to talk a little bit about production coordination.
Okay.
So you know, there's a lot of people involved in film, from, you know, the producers, the director, the scriptwriter, obviously, all the actors, then there's all the crew, which is sound and lighting people. There's a lot of people on the set. It gets really, in a tight quarters, it can get to be a very crowded room, you know, behind the camera. But there's one person who is really responsible for keeping everybody on track and bringing it home. And the producer is watching that person and making sure they're doing a good job, and that's a production coordinator. And we're going to cover that as well. So when it comes to filmmaking, there's never enough attention or focus on what the production coordinator actually does and how they do it. And we have to do that for the films, and we do it even for mini films or marketing videos, anything we do. There's a production coordinator somewhere saying, okay, here's the scenes, here where we're at, this is what has to happen. There's so many things that go with that job. Continuity, which has to do with making sure I'm wearing the same clothes I had, that I have the same props I had. But it goes even beyond that to coordinating everything off the set that has to get there. So all the resources, the props, the food, I mean, it's just endless, right? And that job is the hardest job next to the director. And it's a job that I don't know how a sane person can do it without going insane, but it's like...
Yeah, usually you get somebody with a pretty strong attitude.
Yes, you need somebody that can actually have a little whip, you know, they can pull out, and they have permission. Even the director, when the production coordinator speaks, the director listens, right?
Yeah, the director goes, where are we and where we're supposed to be?
Yeah.
We're about to wrap up. Bruce, you want to put up the open house slide?
Yeah, let me get to that real quick. Please come by. We want to see you.
We want to invite you
there it is.
to come to the studio this Saturday and meet us. You can ask us any questions you didn't ask today in person. And we really appreciate you watching today. And we appreciate all your support. And we ask you to please continue to support us here at IFF. Any parting words?
Yeah, I just want to say, I hope we communicated not only the vision for what we're doing with the Independent Films Foundation, but also our first movie. That's our big project for this year. The vision for that is extremely moving. We can save a lot of lives. So if we produce this film and get it Obviously distribution through traditional channels is great, but we get it into the films, into the schools all across Texas and beyond throughout the country. We can save a lot of lives because the story goes beyond simply scaring kids. It goes into really getting them to think about how it's the consequences and impact it has on everybody's lives, including the people that survive. So if you can help us achieve this goal any way you can by being an ambassador or donating, please do so. And please come down Saturday and learn more about what we're doing.
Sounds good. And since I have the button, I'm going to send us out of here. And I appreciate your time. And Bruce, appreciate you as always. And we look forward to seeing you on Saturday.